Yeah, YouTubers, Tasman here, bringing you another episode of Learn JavaScript with Foundry VTT. And we're ongoing with our attempts to practice what we've learned, or, applying what we've learned, our knowledge, into creating some macros that might be kind of handy. So I actually was recording a big long one. It was going 2 episodes for this one called DV Test. Well, actually, it wasn't that. It's this one right here. I might still try and get it to work, but apparently version 10 changed some things, so I wasn't able to do that. But I'm going to go ahead. Is that the right one? Go ahead and kill fundamentals. Let's put that below that so I remember. I've been tweaking stuff and it's not working yet. But I did test this other one before I got on to make sure it is working. And so this one is a macro that it became a necessity when I was playing a campaign with someone in Foundry, of course, and I think it was a homebrewed feat that was given to them that gives them advantage on initiatives. And there isn't a way necessarily, at least that I know of, at least when I created this, there wasn't a way for you to actually roll initiative with advantage. And so I set off to try and actually create this, and successfully did it. Now, it still has some features that would be nice to figure out, but I didn't have enough time to actually do that. And what I got working worked good enough for our game that we could just hurry and go along. But what it doesn't do that I wanted it to do is actually put automatically the initiative that's higher for that character in the combat tracker. But it doesn't actually do that. It just gives us a card, don't look at this, that tells us these are the two rolls. This one is actually the higher of the two. So I figured this would be a really good type of thing to learn, because it's going to teach us a little bit about some of the putting cards into the chat window, how to actually access our character and look at different stats and then use those, and actually generating a roll the way that Foundry actually does it, instead of just coming here and typing it. This actually does it behind the scenes and will generate the card for it. So anyway, let's jump right in and do that. As you can see, I forgot to mention, we're still in build 291 of Foundry version 10. So if we go in here, we're going to call this initiative advantage. Why not? Let's see. So what was our last one we did? We won't do the dark vision A. We'll do 10A as initiative advantage, if I can spell that right. So let's do 10A and do INITIATIVEADV. Let's do that. Keep it nice and short. All right, so first thing we're going to want to do, of course, is get our template, get our boilerplate code real quick. And we'll go ahead and paste it in here just so we have our base. Hit enter a bunch of times. There we go. And let's go ahead and walk through this. So in our last episodes that we were actually doing, we talked about how to detect if a token was selected, and this is very key for this macro. We definitely want to make sure that our token is selected. So I'm just going to cut and paste, because we already went over all this code in that last video, and this will help, because I'm a slow typer, move this video along. So as you can see here, just to let you remember what we were doing, here we're saying if canvas token controlled length, because it's a map, and maps actually have a property of length, which tells you, if it's 0 or 3 or whatever. We just want to check if it's not 1. That will cover if there's 0 selected, and that will cover if there's multiple selected. So if we have, for example, these 3 guys selected and we run this, we'll get the thing, please select a single token. Or if we only have, none selected, we'll also get, please select a single token. However, if we do have our 1 selected, everything works fine. Of course, we're not going to see anything, but this will help us know that, yes, we are only getting 1 token. And that's pretty key for this, because we want to guarantee that our array element or our map 0 element is going to be our selected token. And if we had more, it could be them and it could not be them. We never know. So the next thing I want to do, now that I know that we have just a single token selected, I want to access combats to make sure, because we're going to also need to make sure that there's actually a combat or something in the initiative tracker. If there's nothing here, there's no point in moving on. So we're going to go look at that as well. So let me just remember what I was doing here. Okay, I remember now. So I just looked at my notes real quick. So if we go into F12, okay, good, we have enough room. Go ahead and expand that just a little bit. So what we want to do is access the combats, and that's part of the game. So that's, when we're talking about game, we're kind of talking about these components up here. So, we have game tokens, game, that's actually bigger than I need, surprisingly. So if we do game and hit enter, you'll see here, these are the different things for the game itself. We have our actors, which is basically our actor tab right here. We have our audio, which is our music. We have, all our different things. There's our items and so on and so forth. But what we're interested in here is combats. And you'll see that right now it's map 0. So it's a mapping and there is nothing there. Now, as I said, maps actually have, I lied about the first one, it's an array. But maps actually have a value or a property in them called size, which tells us the size of the map, right? It doesn't look like there's a length as well. So let's go ahead and experiment. I think, how did I do this real quick? Let me just look at my notes real quick. So I'm not 100% sure I did this part right. It does work because I actually checked length. So maybe because I'm saving the map as a variable, it's actually getting a length value. Let's go ahead and just test this, because I think we'd want size more than we want actual length. But let's check. So I'm going to do let, and I'm just going to call it my combat, COMBATS, or should I call it combat? I don't know. And then we'll say equals, and this is going to be in game, as we've seen up here, and combats, COMBAT, and it was S, right? My combats, yes. So if we do that, and then let's just test it real quick and do console.log, and do this and do my combats, something like that. Let's go ahead and run that. So close this. All right, let's clear this and we'll just do that there. All right, so here we have our map, and you see we have the size. I'm kind of confused why in my code I did it with length. And I think I could even check this. Let's try this instead, because I feel like I took more steps than I needed to, because I think we want to do it more like this right here and just do it as an if statement. So we're going to keep the combats part, because that's actually what we need. And we'll do .size And we'll say there are no talk. It needs to at least, so if it's 0, so equals a 0, which is what it currently is equaling, then we want to, oh, this doesn't go there. So let's go ahead and say if game combat size equals a 0, then we will go ahead and just do a UI notification saying there's no combats in the combat trigger. Let's just check if this works, because I'm curious why I did it this way. And it could have been I was just new at doing it and didn't know better, but it actually kind of understood what I wanted to do, and it kind of figured it out. I'm not 100% sure. So if we have this, there's no combats in the tracker, so we can just do RETURN, like so. So this will be our second thing, that if it's 0, there's no point in even doing it. So let's go ahead and do execute macro and see what we get. Let's go ahead and clear this out. Oh, we're not going to have my combats. That will definitely error out. And there are no tokens in the combat tracker. So we are seeing that. Now let's go see. I'm going to hit save real quick. And let's go ahead and put these 3 in the combat tracker. And then we'll even go reselect Acra there. And let's go back to our macro, go to initiative advantage, and let's try it now. There we go. All right, so that did work. So that is a better way of actually doing it than I did before, and I'm not 100% sure why I did it the way I did it earlier. So now that we know that our combats is also legit, this is where we can actually go and say, okay, well, now we want to actually create our variables for our token and for our combats. So we want to actually create those. So let's go ahead, now that we know those are good, we'll go ahead and say, I think I just do my token. Or whoops, I need let my token equal, and this is going to be canvas canvas dot tokens, I think it was. Canvas dot tokens dot controlled, and we know it's going to be our 0, 1 because there's only one, and that I believe is what we want for that. So that is our token. So go ahead and semicolon, and we'll also go ahead and do our combat itself. So we'll do let my combat. Now there are some flaws in this aside from automatically adding the higher initiative to the combat tracker, because it puts that little dice there and it expects you to actually click it. But also I don't think I actually really take very much consideration of having multiple combats in the combat tracker, which rarely have I ever seen that in a game where even when I'm running it myself, do I have multiple games in, or multiple combats all in the combat tracker. It is possible, but I haven't really done it. So we're just going to pretend this is best case scenario. Only one combat is in the, or encounter is in the combat tracker. So we're going to say game dot combats, combats, and it's going to be bracket 0 bracket, which is our 0. Now let me go look at my notes real quick. And this should end up listing, I believe this is just the combatants, but let's make sure. Do console.log, and we'll do my combat, my combat. Go ahead and clear that. Go ahead and execute it, and we get an error. My combat is not. Oh, case sensitivity, people. All right, so now we're getting undefined, not unidentified. Let me just verify this real quick. Let's go look at. I think I'm missing one stage here. So game.combats. Actually, I'm going to do game. I want to start there and go ahead and look at that. And so if we go now to combats, we know we have a map, and it's the first one is 0. So I think in order to output it, we have to do the array thing, right? I think. Sorry, this is how my brain works. I have to figure this stuff out. And that was, let's see if I have an example of that, because I'm drawing a blank at the moment. Actually, we could just go look in our other one if we needed it. So we do this. I know we were doing that in get data, I think it was. Or what might have been in async and await. There it is. Array from, that's what I need. All right, so that's why it's always good to keep your previous code. So if we do array dot, oh, it's uppercase, array dot from, and then we could do this. I think this will get what we're wanting. So let's try and close that and execute that. And it might be that we don't actually put this there. There we go. So now in combat, we have our array of combatants, which is, or our combat here. If we go look at, I think there actually is one called combatants. There we go. These are our 3 people in the combat. Now, as I said, because this was a mapping, it doesn't guarantee that these guys will necessarily be in the correct order. So we do have that as 0. Whoops, wrong thing. Yeah, so see, he's actually in array element 1, and then ACRA is actually in 2. So you don't always know, but that actually gives us the information we need, which is good. All right, let me scroll back up, and we'll continue on. So, combats. Go and clear that. Go back here again. Go to initiative advantage. So now that we have those 2 things, we know that we can actually get the information for our character. We just need to find our character in that. So what we're going to do, where's my code for this? Not that one. So we're going to want to get our character role data from our actual character, right? Actually, we might not need the combatants part because we're not editing that. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think when I was writing this initially, I was hoping that I was going to be able to update the combat tracker. But this is good. This is good to know. But technically, because we're going to end up doing that part manually, you can actually ignore. How much did I ignore? Just that. Let's go ahead and just put it to right here. And then we'll go let my token, or Control X, and we'll put that here. That way it's kind of segregated. And now we can get rid of this. So yeah, well, what we're doing, if you want to try and figure out how to actually update the combat tracker, this is how you would check. And maybe, trying to think what we would do to find our combatant. Actually, I did try and do it, but I don't think it works if we have that dice. We'll play with this because I'm forgetting. I know it works. I don't know how far I got it to work. So right now, this isn't going to hurt to be uncommented, so I'm just going to leave it uncommented. And we're just going to push forward because that's where I want to talk about setting up a role, which is going to be coming up soon. So the next thing we're going to want to do for our combatant, since we have it up here, let's do let, and we'll call it my data. This will be the rollable data. And as we know, when we have that selected, the rollable data is in token dot actor dot get roll data and parentheses on that. I feel like I'm missing a parenthesis. No, I'm not. Okay, we're all good. All right, so we're going to have our data because this will be our easy way of seeing what our dexterity is. Because one other thing I like to do in D&D for myself is actually set in here. Let's save this real quick and I'll show you. Sorry I'm so scatterbrained because I'm just thinking of all this stuff as we go. But if we go under core here, I like to have it set to, where is it? Oh, actually it's this one, 5th edition. There's an option in here that will help with ties, and what it does, is it in here? Initiative Dex tiebreaker. This is really good because what this does is, let's say you rolled a 12 on your Dex, and then your modifier, of course, is a plus, what is it, 1? What it would do is when you roll your initiative, let's say you roll a 5 plus 1, so that's 6, then it would do a decimal point and use your actual value of your Dex as a tiebreaker. So it's a nice little way to separate that. And I kind of use that same logic inside of here. But like I said, depending on if we actually got our person to automatically do that, this would be a really good way of doing that. I think I'm being really confusing and I apologize. So let's just jump in and continue on with what we're doing. So what I did, if we go back here, go to initiative advantage. So this sets up our check our token. Let's go ahead and check if there is a combat in the tracker. All right, and if not, then we exit. All right, so let's go ahead and just kind of jump right in, and then we will go ahead and explain it as we're going and why we're doing what we're doing as we continue on. So I'm going to go ahead and start now. Where am I on my notes? Right here. So I'm gonna, once again, I like using the let my stuff. Whoop, that's capital. So we're gonna do let my dex, and this will be the actual value of your dex, but we want to convert it into a decimal point, right? So we're gonna say let my dex, and we're gonna say equal 0.01 and times the actual value of our dex. What this is going to do is if our dex value is a 12, it will actually make my dex be 0.12, which is basically what we want. Now, where do we have this dex information? Well, let's go ahead and grab our get rolled data and we will find it. So we're going to say console.log. And I usually like creating these things for each type of thing, and then you just comment them out once you've completed it. You know, just for your testing, you have these here. So I'm going to do quote RO role data, maybe like that, colon, and here we'll do my data. And I'm going to go ahead and create one also here, Control C, Control V, and we'll call this token, and call this token. And then down here, we'll go ahead and do one for combat. But this one I'm going to comment out because we don't need that right now. So combat, and this will be combat. All right. So, and then of course we can't do this yet. So now that we have this, I'm gonna have comment this guy out just for a second while I execute it. Actually, I wanted to clear it and then execute it. So if we go look at role data, where is this information that we need? We need our DEX actual information. So we know that we're in the role data or the my data. So we're gonna start by saying my data, like so, and then we're gonna do our dot. And then we're going to kind of dig in. So we know that it's an ability or attributes. So if we go here, we can see, oh, here's our ability scores. Here's our dex, right? So we know it's going to be abilities and then dex. So abilities dot dex. And then we can see that it is going to be value after that. So we will do dot, and I think I did a comma there, value. And then if we just come down here, we'll just have a generic one, console dot log, and we'll just do my dex. So if we did this right, because our value is 13, my dex should output 0.13. So let's go ahead and see if we did this right. Go and close that, and there you go, we got the 0.13. Now when we have a role for our initiative, we can put that 0.13 on the end of it and have it ready to go in the combat tracker if we could, if we knew that code. We don't know that code yet. So let's go ahead and wow, we're at 27 minutes. This is a lot of babbling, and I apologize for that. But I think we're going to go ahead and call it here because I don't want to go too long. We're at 28 minutes-ish right now. So thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I'm sorry for being a little scatterbrained and kind of not thinking straight. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully it kind of followed my train of thought, although it's all over the place. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me or click the little notification bell. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord and my other channels. Don't forget to tell other people about my channel. Check it out. If they like what they see, they can sub. We grow the channel. And that is it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.